Good evening, friends. It is night 34 on the Elul Screen challenge. We are making our way now to Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, or at 1 minute, reading passages from Inner Work, the teachings of Rav Ashlag. We're on page 57. Olam Haba, the world to come, means the spiritual state to come. This is a state of pure giving. Olam Haba, the world to come, means the spiritual state to come. This is a state of pure giving. So Olam Haba in traditional Judaism signifies the world after this world, the world of exile that we're currently living in, and the world of Olam Haba, the world to come, is the world of divine revelation. And so the Rav is saying that Olam Haba, the concept itself, actually means a spiritual state to come. Olam Haba equals a spiritual state to come, and this spiritual state is a state of pure giving. So Olam Haba is a state of pure giving, which makes sense because it's a state of full revelation, and revelation is equated with pure giving. Every word of the Torah is a divine name that in essence describes a particular measure of experiencing God. Every word of the Torah is a divine name that in essence describes a particular measure of experiencing God. So every word of the Torah, every single word is a divine name. Every word is a divine name, and in essence describes a particular amount, a particular measure, amount, or level, or frequency of experiencing God. Don't know exactly what this is, coming to teach us, but I'm sure it has something profound. If you have any ideas, please share them in the comments. Being able to think about something other than God is a sign of low emunah. It is not possible to be in the presence of God and think about anything else, right? So if you're able to think about something else, you're not in the presence of God. Because if you would be in the presence of God, it's impossible to think about anything else but God. If you're in divine revelation, if God's light is shining down upon you, if you're aware of the sacredness of every moment and every breath, there's no way you're going to be thinking about anything else but God. You're just going to be in the light and united with the light. So if you are able to think about something else, it means it's a sign of low emunah. So really this means two things. One, if you're able to think about something else besides God, which is every single one of us, that means that A, you're not in a state of divine revelation at the moment, and your emunah, your embodied faith, is at a low level, meaning you're not in a state of constant striving and seeking and crying out to God to be connected, right? You're not, even if you're not feeling God, or we're being asked to cry out to God, to beg for connection. And that is the spiritual state that we discussed last night, that is actually the highest state, is that state of constantly seeking and striving to be connected to God. And so if you're thinking about anything else but God, that means you're also in a low state of emunah, of striving to be connected. It is necessary to clarify if our pleasure in connecting with God is an egoistic pleasure or a pleasure from nullifying our ego to God. So we need to clarify if our pleasure in God and connecting to God, so if we're having a state experience of divine revelation and connection with God, if it is in fact an egoistic pleasure, that somehow our ego is now attached to that divine revelation, we haven't nullified ourselves, our sense of separate self, but we've actually brought that ego, separate sense of self, along with us in experiencing the divine, which could be a little bit hard to understand because we would assume that divine revelation is a revelation of unity consciousness, which means sort of by default the ego would be nullified. But perhaps this is saying that afterwards, after a state of divine revelation where you've nullified your ego and you've attained a state of unity consciousness, the ego comes back and then takes credit for this experience and then owns it and then uses it for its own self-interest, versus a state of gaining pleasure from being in a state of unity consciousness, in actually nullifying ourselves, our separate sense of self, our ego, to God. And so the ego doesn't come back around and claim rights to this state experience. The ego continues to nullify itself in service of the divine. Imagine that the Mashiach will come today and ask everyone to open their bank accounts and all their savings and to deposit everything into one big collective account, and afterwards the Mashiach will decide how to fairly divide up the money between everyone. End of the passage. Very interesting. Giving us a little imaginative exercise to imagine the Messiah will come down today, an emissary of the divine, and ask everyone to give all of their money to one central bank account, to one central spot, in which the Messiah will be in control of it, the emissary of God. And the emissary of God who the Mashiach, the Messiah, is said to bring about the world to come that we talked about just a few minutes ago, Olam Haba, to conclude the world of exile that we're currently in and usher in the new world of the world to come of divine revelation. So if that Messiah would come and ask you to drain all your money, give all your money that you have to one account so that the Messiah could divide it up fairly amongst all the human beings, how would you feel? Would you be up for that? Let's do it. I mean, if it's the true Messiah and the true world to come, then wouldn't that be wonderful? You wouldn't have to think about money ever again. You would just be allotted what you needed, and the Messiah would direct all the world's needs, every human being's needs for financial sustenance. Last passage. A person needs to enjoy in this world. A healthy person desires to receive. The point is to concentrate on attaining higher pleasures that are focused on God. So this passage is great, and I really, really appreciate it, and I very much resonate with it. And as you can see, if you've been listening to other passages, it's not just one flat teaching, right? Because in previous teachings, we're asked and told to work to overcome all desire to receive, all desire for pleasure, to substitute that with emunah, and finding ways to connect to God and to be in divine service, right? And here it says that actually a person needs to enjoy in this world. We are designed, we're encoded to receive pleasure, and we need to enjoy in this world. And a healthy person desires to receive because we're encoded to in our DNA. We're programmed to receive, to want to receive. The point is, though, once you walk into the spiritual path and you take it on as a practice, is to concentrate on attaining higher pleasures. What are higher pleasures? Pleasures that are focused on God, right? So once you walk into the path, you're not going to just give up your desire to receive and become an ascetic. I mean, some people do that in India and in the East. They become ascetics, give up everything. And that's a form, of spiritual practice and ego nullification. But most people are not going to do that. We're not built that. We're not designed that way. What we need to do is, once we get on this path, is not get rid of our desire to receive pleasure, but to start to fine-tune it and dial it in to be receiving higher forms of pleasure, subtler forms of pleasure, pleasure from connecting to God. So that's why this path is attractive, because it offers us the pleasure beyond measure, the greatest pleasure, which is unity consciousness, revelation of the divine. And so we're supposed to go after that. That we're just sort of updating and upgrading our desire to receive, and attuning it to receiving the highest pleasure of all, union with the divine revelation. We got to go for that pleasure. We got to say, enough with the ice cream and sex. We need to go for God and God revelation, and feeling the divine showering down God's love on us in every moment, always, infinitely and unconditionally. So I bless you, and I hope you'll bless me back, that we can continue to upgrade our desire to receive, to dial it into receiving, wanting to receive connection with the divine and the massive, profound pleasure that comes from feeling union with God in all the ways that expresses itself. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you tomorrow.